chat so I can do that for attendance. Just giving it a moment to load there. Share my screen. All right, and we can get started. So welcome to Fun Ideas for Any Classroom. I actually ran this one in the spring, and it was pretty well received. So I feel like it might be something that, I felt like it was something that was worth repeating, and I added a few more things to it. You know, I kind of put some other information out there, some new things that I've learned about. But these are ideas that you can use for in class, you can use online, you can use in any type of hybrid situation. So it really should be things that you can kind of do with your kids to kind of keep them engaged, keep them learning, keep them experimenting, keep them creating. And that's really the goal, right? We want to keep them engaged in the learning process to make them want to come back and learn a little bit more. So let me just introduce myself. If you don't know me, I'm Lori Guion. I am the coordinator for model schools at the Buncees here in Saratoga. You can see I have a bunch of different badges on the screen there. If you see something that you're curious about, or you have an app or a website or something that you're like, gee, I'd really like to learn more on how to use that, you certainly can at any point reach out to me, ask questions. My email's on the screen. Please feel free to reach out at any point. I'm happy to help. The reason I have so many badges is I am one of those that believes if I'm going to say, hey, this is a great tool for you to use in the classroom, I want to know everything I can about the company. And I find that becoming an ambassador to those companies really does help me see like how they are, what they're willing to do, how they help teachers, what's coming, because you tend to know first some of the new things that are coming down the pike. So you really get to know the companies, and anyone that I put the badge on here are ones that I'm proud to say are fabulous ed tech companies that are great to work with and really offer a lot of support and ideas and resources for teachers and for students. So if you see something on there, you're like, gee, I'd like to learn more, just reach out. I'm happy to help. So we know that when we're in our classrooms, we don't just browse, click, and chat and game, especially when we're using technology. We invent, we design, we create, we build, we share. That's the idea. And I don't know, I found this on the internet. I think it's a great quote. I'd love to give credit if I knew whose it was. But I think this is a great way for us to remember that technology isn't just a pure substitute for what we do in the classroom. It should really transform the learning experience for our students. It really should give them other opportunities that they typically wouldn't have if you were just doing a worksheet in a classroom. Sometimes the worksheet in the classroom is exactly the right thing to be doing with a student. I'm not putting that down, but what I'm saying is a lot of times our students can showcase what they've learned, or showcase their talents, or what they are interested in ways that are more creative, where they can design and they can build and they can invent and they can communicate and collaborate on ideas. And that's really where you'll find that you'll have that higher level of engagement. For example, if you take a moment and just think about something you remember from elementary school, middle school, high school, whatever grade level it was, if you go back to that moment and say, why do I remember that experience, positive or negative? What was it about that experience that made an impact? And for me, I can say that when I was in the 4th grade, I had a fabulous teacher. And she transformed the room every time we started a new book. So we read The Phantom Tollbooth that year, and I just remember the whole classroom felt like I was inside the book. And it was just such an engaging experience for me that when I became a 6th grade English teacher, I actually taught Phantom Tollbooth because I just wanted to relive some of those memories and bring that same excitement that I had for the book to students that I worked with. And it was really one of those kind of like full circle moments for me to realize, okay, I loved it because it was engaging, because it was fun, because it was something that really piqued my interest and kept me creating. It wasn't just something that was give and get that you often get in the classroom. So that's what these ideas are supposed to be, is they're supposed to be things that really put the learning in the driver's seat of the student, and that the student is really creating and building based on what they've learned and what they're excited about. When you're doing remote learning, so we know that a lot of us are going to some sort of hybrid model in the fall. So when we think about that, some key things we really want to remember is definitely keep it fun. use what they have. And what I mean by that is we don't want to be using 50 new tech tools with students. That's going to be too overwhelming for them and for you and for parents. Don't do that. You know, stick to a couple different things. Stick to what they have in their classroom. If you know, or in their houses. If you know that you've sent home a packet of paper to each student and they have paper and a pen, that's what you focus on. That's what you should use. If you know that they have access to 2 or 3 websites that maybe they used last year, those are ones you want to focus on, at least at the beginning, to get them comfortable and, you know, creating with you. Always get them creating, allow for exploration, and definitely offer choice. I'm doing another session later this week on choice boards. Offering choice is really going to keep students engaged in the learning process, especially in a remote learning environment. But definitely today, we're just going to focus on the fun. We want to talk about things that are absolutely fun for our kids to do, that are really going to make them excited to do whatever it is you're asking them to do. Because if you're having fun, you don't realize how hard or how, you know, or how in depth you're learning something, right? Because you're having fun doing it. All right, so let's talk about this social emotional first. So this is something I saw on a webinar about bringing joy back to the classroom. And the teacher that was on it, what he said he did was he ends every day. He doesn't start, he ends every day with the big 3. At the end of the day, they have to write 3 good things that happened that day. So they always end on a positive note. And they could be simple. It could be, I woke up today. My coffee was the right temperature. I didn't burn my tongue, right? There was bread for toast. Whatever it happens to be, you can say 3 things. They don't have to be big things, just 3 things. And he said, based on the science behind doing this type of activity, is that students that focus on the positive at the end of something are more motivated to come back. They feel better about themselves. They're less likely to be depressed. They're finding that this simple activity has huge scientific impacts on the way they feel about themselves. So simple, easy thing to do. Your exit ticket of the day, 3 good things that happened today. You could do it at the beginning. You know, if you have an afternoon class, you'd be like, 3 things that happened prior to today, write them down. They don't even have to share them. It's just a matter of focusing on the positive, focusing on the good things that they have access to versus focusing often on the negative. So 3 good things is my first big fun activity you can try. Now, I said I was an English teacher, so some of the fun things I like to do with kids, and we had writers' workshops, so I didn't always get to fit these in, but I did whenever I could, was to do these different activities with your students where they can redesign the writing process. And 3 big ones that I like to do, so I'm still focusing on the 3s here, is to rewrite the ending. So your students know famous stories. So we often did the 3 Little Pigs in 6th grade. And so we would read the story, and we'd also read the alternative story, you know, the one that's told from like the wolf's perspective. And we would take the story framework, and we would do this to kind of learn the parts of writing a good story from, you know, from the beginning to the climax to the end, that sort of thing. And what I would have them do is change something that happened along the way. So if you're taking 3 Little Pigs, maybe that house built out of hay or whatever it was didn't burn down. All right, maybe part of it stood up or whatever happens. What would happen in the story? How would it change the ending? Students love to do that with Cinderella. What if she hadn't lost her slipper on the stairs? What would have happened? So, and then they rewrite that part of the story. So you're still teaching them that arc, that story arc. You're still doing that digital storytelling process, but you're shifting it to where you're talking about changing some part of it, and you talk about how that pivots the story. And since you're talking about what part of it would change and how it would change the story, you're really focusing in on the parts of what makes a good story. Right now, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so having them write about this moment in time, it can be very impactful. Now, some students won't feel comfortable talking about their experiences. You know, it could be very private, what they're dealing with being home. So you have to be cognizant of that, but they can take it from different perspectives. Maybe they tell a story about it. There's a ton of post-apocalyptic stories right now that are very popular right now, right? So like you're talking about like Divergent and Hunger Games and Ready Player One, those type of stories where something happened and it changed the way the world is. They can, you can take that idea and then say, how is the world going to be different? And they can start to predict and think about what could change. So there's a good writing prompt for you. And then the last is selfie stories. Kids love to write about themselves, no matter how young or how old, they love to tell stories. So I would have them create I like Buncee, so I'll start with Buncee. I'd have them create like a Buncee slide about themselves, right? An all about me type of activity. And then they'd have to write a story about their selfie. And a lot of kids don't like to use their whole face. So often I'll have them hold the paper in front and just show their eyes. And you can get a lot of expression out of eyes. So it's a really fun activity to do with your kids. So there's 3 writing prompts you could do that are fun. I mentioned Buncee, so I just wanted to share this slide. Buncee has a ton of templates and ideas in their Idea Lab for you to use, even if you don't use it on Buncee, although I would use it on Buncee, but you don't have to, where you could do all these fun activities and creative ideas that you can do with your students. So you can create resource boards, you can visualize poetry, you can create bookmarks and learning journals, and you can do something as simple as learning the alphabet or exploring different books. So different ways that you can use Buncee. I'm going to share this slide deck with you when we're done today. So you're going to have access to all those links, because I'm not going to spend a ton of time on those links today. I just want to double check, make sure you're all here, make sure no one's sitting out there. Great. Okay. If you haven't already, please put a here in the chat for me. That's how I'm going to take attendance yet. If you already did, I got you. So one of the things that happens every September that is a great way to start your year, and it's usually around, and you'll see it says September 15th-ish. And the reason for that is you can celebrate International Dot Day anytime that you want, but typically it happens that week of September 15th. If you're not familiar with Peter Reynolds' work, he's written some absolutely phenomenal books that you can use for any grade level because they have really impactful stories. Even though they're meant for children, they really could be for anyone. Ish being one of his books, which is why he throws the ish in there. But the story of the dot is about a girl who doesn't think she's creative. And she learns that she can be with something as simple as a dot. And it's a great story. And then the idea is that you then have your students create their own dots based on what you learned in the story. And you could do this through coding. You can do this through, you can use Buncee again. You can do it on a Google slide. Whatever you use in your classroom, you can absolutely create these dots and have your students show that they're creative. And the studies show that somewhere around 3rd grade, students start to think they're not creative anymore. That seems to be when the tide turns, where they start to kind of compartmentalize what they're good and what they're not good at. Prior to 3rd grade, they all think they're great at everything, which is fabulous. So somewhere in there is where they lose that creativity. So giving them the chance to see you could be creative with something as simple as a dot really helps them see, okay, there's other ways to be creative. We can stay creative. We can build on this creativity. So there's a virtual event that's happening, and I'll just click on this just to quickly show you. So there's an International Dot Day activity, all right, and they give you some information on the slide. They talk about what it's done throughout the year, and then they give you some templates that you can use for students to create like an Instagram post or a dot for your classroom. They give you all the templates for creating, and then you can stitch them together, kind of like the quilt activity that we've often done in our classrooms, but you can put all these different dots together. So it's a different idea along the dot day idea there. And then you can sign up and actually join this international by going to the dotclub.org, where you're really celebrating that creativity and collaboration. You just click on join here, and it's going to give you more information. They're going to give you some ways to get inspired and get connected. Peter Reynolds is very active on Twitter. He will pop into classrooms fairly often. So if you post things and you comment, he will comment back. He'll give you feedback to your students. I did something in a classroom with a Peter Reynolds book, and he replied like within 20 minutes back to me. And he doesn't know me, at all. I don't know Peter Reynolds, but I've seen him talk. He's amazing, but he's just very active and very engaged in the process. During the closures in the spring, every week he read another book aloud on YouTube. So all of those videos are there. So you can go out and you can take a look at those videos. And I'm sure he'll do some more in the fall. He tends to be that type of author that he's very engaged. So you can see that, that where it's coming and how it's coming. You can get some information on Dot Day. He gave Fable Vision away for free in the fall or the spring. I don't know if that's going to continue in the fall, but that's a creativity studio. If you've never used Quiver Vision, it's augmented reality. I know I have some Schuylerville friends on here. We did that in the in one of our sessions out in Schuylerville, where we colored it, a page, and then it came to life. With Quiver Vision, they have a dot the students create, and then it pops up out of the screen as like a globe that spins. So you can do that with augmented reality. Any questions? Oh, you love that book. Absolutely. Wonderful. Any questions on that? I see Cami, a question mark on Cami. What's your question on Cami? You can unmute and ask it.
Oh, I was just wondering, it was a Cami, or is it Cami Hero? Is that a different thing, or is that just the badge? Because I was wondering.
Oh, on the badges, yeah. Cami is the website. Cami Hero is their ambassador program. So if you use Cami, the free version, I can give you a code for a 6-month premium one too. So ask me at the end, and I can certainly share that with you if that's something your district uses, but they don't pay for yet. So I can help you out with that one. All right, so another thing I love to do is create templates for my students, but really opened ones. So this one I created on Buncee. You can create it in a Google slide. You can do it anywhere you'd like. But what I did with this is I just opened 2 big topics. Today I researched. When I was researching, I learned. We want our students to be curious. So my son, actually, he did the science research class in high school. And the first summer before it started, all they had to do was research science articles and start to narrow what they were interested in. And it was really interesting watching him go through that process, because he was reading things that I didn't think he had any interest in. He's like, I didn't know I was interested in this either, but I kind of like it. And he was able to narrow focus and find out all this information. And he became one of those fun facts kind of kids. So all of a sudden he's like, fun fact, I learned, you know. And so all of a sudden he was learning things that were outside of the classroom because he was given the freedom to research. So you could do this using Newsela. Wonderopolis is one of my favorites for elementary school. You could do it with actual science journals, especially at the high school level, your Scholastic magazines. Just giving your students a chance to just explore the articles that are there instead of assigning one can really open up a world of interest for your students. So giving them a template like this, it could be a choice board where maybe once a week they just have to research something, and you can give them a website to go to. They can research anything on that site, and then have them write down, you know, 2 or 3 things that they learned on that site. And then you can even have, instead of putting your giant Bitmoji over here, you can have in that one what they want to learn next about it, or I'm done with this topic and I plan to move on. To just keep that free, open research available to them. This is a great time to pull in your library media specialists. They can certainly help you with the resources for students to give them that free, open research idea. And it doesn't have to be something that's graded. It could just be something that, as long as they did it, they get the check and it's moved on. Or it could be something you're grading based on their ability to cite their sources. It could be that they were able to copy and paste and link something. Like you might be working on some of those digital literacy skills, but you're doing it through a fun activity with your students. I mentioned Wonderopolis, so I'll take you out to it. I don't know if I have it linked here. No, I don't. I have part of it linked there, .org. So if you haven't used Wonderopolis, it is a fabulous website. And I like to show it when I show fun things, because I think this is one of those sites that just, I don't know why it's free, but it's free. So every day there is a wonder of the day. So here is, what were the intolerable acts? All right, so here is some information about it. They give you a video, they give you some images to look at. They always give you an article, wonder words, and a little quiz. For pretty much every wonder, it tends to be that way. Students can put in their own wonders in here. They can free explore by using the search part to go in and figure out. They just search up here. So if they're interested in hot air balloons, let's say, the Montgolfier made me think of a hot air balloon, right, in French. So I can pull up any of these in hot air balloons. I can open up any article, and then from this article, I can see what they have. This one, again, a video that has images. It has all the keywords are kind of highlighted. That's why you see a whole bunch of them yellow. They're over here in the wonder words, and then you test your knowledge. For students that need help with this, this might be too hard, let's say for a 2nd grader or a 3rd grader. It does have built into every article something called Immersive Reader. Now, Immersive Reader is a Microsoft product, but certain companies were able to use it, Wonderopolis being one of them. When I click on this little book, and your students would just have to be told to go to the little book, what it does is it opens it up into Immersive Reader. And within Immersive Reader, it reads it to you.
How does a hot air balloon fly?
Oh, that's really
Have you ever
fast.
wondered,
Let's slow that down.
how does a hot air balloon fly? Why are
All
hot
right,
air
I can
balloons?
change it to a
Balloons
female
so
to a
big.
male.
How do hot air balloons hold air inside when there's a
All
hole?
right, so you can have it read to you. You can change if you have some visual issues. You can change the size to be very large or very small. I can't see small writing, so I like to increase the spacing. If I had it like this, it just looks like a blurry page to me. I can't read any of the words. So I would make the text size bigger for myself. So for me, this is really nice on different websites. You can change the font and you can change the contrast. For example, my son loves the dark with the light. I prefer the light with the dark. So whatever works for you, you can change the color contrast based on what you need for your reading. In the center, your English teachers are going to celebrate. You can separate all words by syllables, by nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. And you can even conjugate those sentences by putting the labels on top there. So it breaks down what those things are. So if you gave them a paragraph, wanted them to pull out the nouns, they can read it in Immersive Reader and have that done for them. All right, let me turn those off so you can see what's on the screen a little bit better. Okay, and then in the reading preferences, you can do line focus. And what this does is it will read each line at a time. If I put it into talking.
Have you ever wanted to fly like a bird and soar through the sky? Do you think it would be fun to glide high above?
It continues to go down those lines. If I move it to 3 lines, it will do the same thing. And then I can do it as 5 lines. There is a picture dictionary built in. So if I click on a word, it will give me the picture and the word. It will read it to me. And
Yes.
there it goes. And then right now I have it converting also to French.
Elle.
All right, I can convert it to over 60 different languages. So if you have students that English is not their native language, you can certainly have them use this to help them read it. So let's say we put it in French, let's leave it there, and we switch it over to the document. It will convert the entire document into French, but you can always go back to the original. And then any word that you click on, you can see what the word is in French and in English. And that is built into Wonderopolis. So I'd like to mention that one. It's built into some other, anything with Microsoft it's built into. So Flipgrid has it. It works in Buncee, it works in Nearpod. I believe it works in Pear Deck as well. There's a whole list. So if you just put in Immersive Reader, I think collaborations, they'll show you the list of the ones that it works in. Questions on that? We're good? All right. So SeeSaw is the next one that I want to mention to you as far as an app to use. SeeSaw has created these new features that are absolutely amazing. I ran a session on SeeSaw last week with a school, and we played around with the new features. And I have SeeSaw coming up, I think, on Thursday. We're going to show them again. But SeeSaw now allows, if you're SeeSaw for Schools, you can have, I think, up to 10 pages. And you can add your own video to each page. So you can read the directions to students now. You can explain what they're going to do on each page. You can give them a different part. You can now also put multiple links on every page within SeeSaw. So the students can have links to resources. So you can create your choice boards right on SeeSaw without having to build it in Google Slides and then link it into SeeSaw and so on. So, but they have these already made activities. So I'm just going to click one of these out just to kind of show you what it looks like. So SeeSaw has what they consider an activity library for every subject in every grade. So let's say I went to 3rd grade reading. I have over 3,000 activities here that are all just 3rd grade reading. Some people feel like this is only for younger kids. So I'm just going to show you a 10th grade reading. You're going to see there's 15 activities in there still for reading. You know, there's still going to be some things for the upper grades. It's not as robust maybe, but there's definitely some activities that you can use. You can build your own activities. You don't have to use the ones that are already in the library. All of these are fully editable, so you can take what you like from it, take out what you don't, and add back in what you like for something else. So SeeSaw has these great libraries that are these interactive activities that students can draw on. They can use their voice. They can videotape themselves. You can do all sorts of fun things within SeeSaw. I was trying to think if there's something else I want to show. Yeah, so there, and you don't have to use the activities that are there. You can always use your own as well. Another fun activity that you can do with students are virtual field trips. We know that students are, you know, at home and they're not getting to go out different places. You might have normally taken them apple picking, or you might have taken them to the battlefield or some place that you typically would take them to do something with them outside of the classroom. Well, you can still do that virtually. So I'm giving you this list of field trips. That's just an article from We Are Teachers that gives you some ideas as far as places you can go. So zoos, slime in space, aquariums, farms, planetariums, nature labs. You can see there's just all sorts of ones that are really fun for kids to go to and spend some time on. So you can take them out to any of these and do activities around them. If your school uses Nearpod, 360 images and virtual reality tours are built around, it's packaged around an already made lesson. So you can certainly use those as well. Or you can create your own lessons by using these tours that are on this website. Another fun one that actually was a library media specialist who put this together. Her name is Shannon Miller. Again, another great person to follow on Twitter if you don't already. But what she did is each week during the pandemic last spring, she created what was called You've Been Virtually Booked. And some of them are themes, some of them are just more open. I'm just going to pick one and open it up for you to see. And her school uses Capstone, so she's able to link these ebooks. So she puts a picture and then you can see the links on each of these books. And what it allows you to do, where'd it go? There it is. Okay. Each of these books would link right to the story. If your school doesn't use Capstone, you can do the same thing and just link it to whatever your school uses. And then the students read the book. When they finish, they go ahead and click the check and say, yep, I read that book. So she gives them these different books to read each week, and the students just say, yes, I've read those. And you can see these books are already made, or these boards are already made for you to use. So you can, if you're a school that uses Capstone, all you have to do is send these out to your students with the links, and the students can then click on it and go from there. So this is the most recent one. So these are virtual field trips instead of books, or they're books that are related to field trips. But you can see that there's a collection of virtual field trips here that if I link out, you can see this is just a whole bunch of virtual field trips that are available that you can do and take them out to. So tons and tons and tons of virtual field trips that you can give access to your students for. So, and these could be for any grade level. They really have some high-end ones, some real fun ones, different ones that you can use. Speaking of fun ones, if you click the little M&M guy, this is a 360 video. So these are there's some out there. They're maybe not a ton, but this one's really cool because it takes you through
We've been making M&Ms.
the M&M factory, but you can click and drag and see the whole factory as the video is going. So I'm clicking and dragging, and it's taking me to different parts of the video. All right, so you can do that as you're going through. It's just taking a little while to load here. But you can see who's holding the camera, who's talking to you as you're going through this video. All right, so really a fun thing for your kids. They're not only watching the video, but they're interacting with it now because they're able to move that video around.
Next step is we send.
Speaking of that, and I don't have it on that page, Google has what they call Google 360 Stories. If you have iPads in your school, these are great. They're called Spotlight Stories. You can have this app for students on their iPad, and they can watch these videos. Again, they're 360, so they're really visually appealing for students. And they take you through different story plots depending on whatever one you want to watch. So really fun ones, definitely probably your older kids. I don't know that I would use these with real younger ones, but they do have some great videos for you to watch in 360 video. Another fun activity to do with your students is based on the Jerry Pallotta books. So if you know his books, you know that he does these Who Would Win series. And what you can do is have your students create their own based on their research. So these are ones that students created, but I'm going to start with this one to kind of give you the idea of how it works. Again, this one happens to be on Buncee, but it doesn't have to be. So here's some different books that the students can read. Like I said, immersive reader is built in. Anytime you see that book, it builds it in. And as the students go through, they'll learn a little bit about Jerry Pallotta, they'll get ideas, and then they can look at some virtual reality field trips to get ideas as far as which two animals they want to combine together. They're going to do some research. So here's just a journal page where they're going to add in the body and the habitat, the location and the food, the life cycle and fun facts. And now they're going to write their own story and share it back to Jerry. And Jerry likes to read these. He's involved in this book. He sees it. He's on this board, so he sees the different ones that students have done. So here's just an example of a student one that was done. They did bald eagles versus falcons. And you can see that they did an introduction. They talked about their different animals, and they kind of give their research information. Here's another one where they did the shark and the box jellyfish. And again, they give the information on each of those animals. Fun activity for kids, relates to those Jerry Pilata books. Another template idea has to do with hero. And hero was a word that was really being thrown around a lot in the spring. We were talking about what is a hero. You know, we were saying our first responders are heroes. You know, a lot of discussions were showing up. But a lot of the books that our students read have heroes for characters as well. So I created this for a teacher that was looking for a template on hero. So what the students had to do, and they worked with this in groups. So they had to define the word hero, and then they had to find 4 characters in books they had read over the course of the school year. And then they had to find a quote that defines what hero means. So they created these as a group activity. You know, they collaborated on this, you know, through, you know, Google Meets or whatever to create these slides. There was also a Thank a Hero project that came out. Again, this one happens to be Buncee. I promise they're not all Buncee. But this is all different thank you notes that, that students around the world wrote to thank our first line responders for the work they were doing. So you can see the information at the top. Barbie Monty is, I think she's a kindergarten or first grade teacher. I could be wrong on that. But I know she's a teacher. I'm just not sure what grade. She started this one. You can see that over 11,000 people have seen these thank you notes. And the students created all these thank you notes to say good job. And then they were sent to hospitals and doctors' offices and so on to kind of say thank you for the work that you're doing. So you can see dear doctors and nurses, dear medical workers, you know, and they're saying thank you for all the work that you're doing. All right, going back to my writing kind of prompts. So story prompts. When I taught 6th grade, before we had any technology, I used to take photos of odd things around town, and I'd give every student a printed picture. Because it used to be like, Shutterfly used to give you like 100 pictures for free, you know, so I would do that, and I would laminate them, and then I'd give students a different picture. And that what they had to do is they had to describe the picture without ever saying what the item was. And then we would post their writing and their picture on a bulletin board, and students had to try to match the picture to the descriptions to try to figure out who gave the most detail and was able to describe it without giving it away. Now, because we have technology, you can take this online. So you can find all these really cool images. So Bored Panda, if you don't know it, it's a silly one that just tells you like happy stories around the world kind of thing. They often do these fun images, these optical illusion images, and that's what you see. Some of these that you see on the screen are from their articles. And so you can give these to students and then have students do different things about it. They can tell a story about it. They can describe what's happening. You could do the same idea that I did where they have to describe what's happening in the picture without saying it. So they wouldn't mention the moon or a man. They might mention, you know, stretched out, you know, holding something, you know, grand or whatever it happens to be as they were describing it. For your older kids, New York Times does a what's going on in this picture. So every week they post a photo, and they'll start up again, I'm sure, in the fall. But they post a photo without any caption or any information about the picture, and you can see all these different pictures that they've posted over the course of the past year. And by the end of the week, they give the information. So you can have the students think about what they think is happening in the picture, describe it, write stories about it, have debates about it, whatever you'd like them to do with that photo, and then they have to try to figure out what it is. Definitely for your older kids, because some of the images can be a little bit graphic, so be careful of that, but definitely a fun thing to do, and you can certainly do that yourself by finding pictures that maybe are, you know, or maybe just using the ones that you know are appropriate for your younger students. Any questions? Making inferences, yes, that's wonderful. Welcome, Stephanie, it's okay. I know I had my phone out earlier to make sure that there wasn't anybody waiting to try to get in, and then I closed out my phone. So I hope no one's sitting out there saying they can't get in. All right, so so yeah, inferences are fabulous. So and you do them a lot with a lot of different things, right? And really, there's this whole science, and I have a whole workshop that I've done on visual literacy, and really, students are bombarded with images all the time. I mean, whether it's online or driving down the road, billboards, ads on commercials, everything. They're just, they're bombarded by images, but we have to help them to understand what's in those images. We have to help them discern what's appropriate, what's an optical illusion, what's real. As you're going through and you're helping your students with, reading and writing and math and all of those typical things, helping them understand what they're seeing is also important. And I know we do that a lot in math with graphs, but we don't often do that a lot in ELA or in science. But sometimes, that the image can be misleading too. I mean, the man's not actually holding the moon in his hands, right? But it looks like it in that picture. So helping students understand what they're seeing and helping them pull apart that image is so important. All right, so I found this on the internet, this virtual makerspace. So a lot of us in our schools have these awesome makerspaces that we've been using over the past few years, and we're not sure whether or not we're going to be able to use those spaces because it's supposed to be collaborative. Everybody's sharing supplies, and we have a lot of concerns whether or not that's okay. So this one teacher created this virtual makerspace. So, and this is on a Google Doc, all right? So you can certainly share this with your students, but what they did is each of these categories is a link out to a spot that students can go to do an activity. So this could be something, again, if you create a choice board, this could be a choice. And then they just have to say, this is what I did, right? So so there's coding, there's designing, there's music. If you've never used Chrome Music Lab, it's super fun. So I'm just gonna, actually I'll pull this guy because he's fun. What they do is they teach rhythm. So you can, as you click on different spots, it adds different sounds and then it rotates through. So I made a little beat, right? I can even add 2 beats there or a different beat there. I can, add different spots where I want it to go. All right, so maybe I have too much bell and I want to take them out. So I can do that kind of thing too. And you can do it with different types of beats. All right, so you can do different things there. You can actually write your own music on here. They do have the Song Maker one that you can do and actually create your own songs. The kids love the Kandinsky because they actually paint on the screen once it loads here. Come on. So as I paint, it creates sound based on what I'm drawing. So great. If you have a mouse, it'd be a lot easier. I'm doing this with just the what do you call it, trackpad. But as I do that, and then if I hit play, it's going to continue to play all of those lines that I did. See how that changes it as it's going through? Very therapeutic, if you ask me. So that is Chrome Music Lab. There's lots of different fun ones on there. There's one that does crazy noises. In the building, there's some Lego kind of building online. You can paint. These are any age, any grade, you can decide which ones you want. You can also take this template and then change out some of the slides. So it could be things that maybe you would want the students to do versus ones that it takes you out to. So it takes you out to that capstone reading adventure. So maybe you don't want to do that one. Maybe you want to do something else. Maybe you don't want them to have access to Incredibox because it's a little bit older, it's rap music. Maybe that isn't something you want your kids to have access to. I don't know why, it's super fun, but you certainly could take them out and share those different things with them. So virtual maker spaces, you can create your own. This is just an idea for you here. I think it's just the one slide. Yeah, that's on there. So this is something I had way too much fun building. So Bitmojis became like the big thing, right? Come spring, everyone was making Bitmoji classrooms and they were creating Bitmoji breakout rooms and search and finds and that sort of thing. So I wanted in and I created this one. So this one I thought you could use in lots of different ways. I changed my outfit on my Bitmoji. You start with the Bitmoji on your phone so you can change your outfit as often as you want. I used the Bitmoji Chrome extension and then I just dragged them down and then placed them wherever I wanted them to be on this picture. But you can do lots of activities with your young ones. It could be circle the items that have yellow, or count how many times I'm wearing a hat, or the possibilities are endless with these kind of activities, right? So when I do my Nearpod lessons, I often throw a slide at the beginning of just something fun, something that's just to engage them while I'm waiting for everyone else to log in. This would be something I can throw out as a template where students can circle different things or draw different things, or whatever you want them to do on it. Say, I could say, find every time Mrs. Guillon's drinking coffee in this picture. And they're going to spend the time searching and circling those as they're working while I'm waiting for other students to log in. So it was super fun to make. It took me way longer than it should have because I just keep adding to it as Bitmoji adds different things, or I change my outfit. But it's a fun one to kind of do if you're doing categories, like find things that are transportation, or maybe you could even have them find angles within it, if you're doing a math activity. Really, whatever you can think of, you can do with these kind of activities. And you can have a lot of fun building them. All right, let me check on you guys because you've been quiet for a while. Anyone have any questions for me?
Could you show that makerspace slide again so I can grab a screenshot real quick?
Sure. I'm going to share my whole presentation with you, so you'll have the link to it. I'm going to share it at the end, but yeah, I'll put that up for a minute. It's pretty cool, isn't it? This is also Shannon Miller. Remember the library media specialist I said you should follow on Twitter? This is also her. She does some pretty cool things. Okay, moving on. So I was able to get these splats while we were on the pandemic, and I said to them, I'm like, well, they're great, but I'm not in class with kids right now. What can I do? And so they said they have online coding, which is really fun. So if you're not familiar with splats, they're these solid plastic pieces that when kids hit them, they emit noise and colors. So it's great for like phys ed, or you're doing an activity in your class and you want students to create music or play a hot potato type of game, or there's lots of things you can do with the splats within your classroom. But it's really the idea of adding coding and activity together. So it's active coding if you want to look at it that way. But they actually have an online platform, so your students can do it without having code. Oh, it's going to make me sign in again. All right, hang on. Let me just sign in real quick. And then it'll let me in. So they have this PDF that's splatting without splats, and it walks you through their dashboard. And then they have the dashboard, which they should have been on here. Lesson plans. Yeah. So you download these different lesson plans on Unruly Splats, and then it takes you out to their coding platform, and the students can create code. So if you have Splats, you can have them at home and test them for your students, or they can just play online and use up to 10 virtual Splats to create their activities. So, so you can download these lesson plan guides. You can take a look at the different activities they have, and then you can go online and do their online coding. So it's super fun. It's very engaging for kids. It's game-based, but it's also fitness if you actually have the splats and can do them with your class. So I have 2 splats. So if we're ever back in school and I can actually come into your class, I can bring them, which would be fun. Speaking of online coding, Dash and Dot, those of you who know me from Schuylerville, you've seen me use these in classes before. But Dash is a fun blue robot. He's very entertaining. And what Wonder Workshop brought out this spring was an online virtual way to use Dash, and it's called Dash's Neighborhood. And I don't know that it's free. It was free for a little while. I haven't looked back to see if it is what the cost is or any of that yet. But what it does is you go into Dash's Neighborhood. So I'm just going to play this for you. That'll explain it better than me. So this is the virtual neighborhood that Dash goes into. And then the students are going to code the dash to move around the neighborhood. And it's all block coding, drop and drag. So everything you could typically do with Dash in your classroom, now you can continue to do online. Or if you've never used it, it's a way to use Dash online, and the students can create. All right, so you get the idea there. So one of my favorite books, and I mentioned this earlier, that I do a lot of children's books with even with my older kids, is a book called The OK Book. And I'm not going to play it just for the sake of time, but you can Google it, or you can. Well, I'm going to give this to you so you can watch it after. But what it does is this little stick figure goes through, and I'm just going to drag him across here. He goes through all the things that he's kind of okay with. All right, and he walks through all of these things that he's okay with, and at the end, he talks about how he's excited to see what he's going to be someday, and he starts to dream about what it's going to be, or what he's going to be. So he does this whole one day, I can't wait. And it really is part of that growth mindset of I'm okay at this right now, but I know someday I'm going to be really good at it later. I can't wait to see what I'm going to be good at. And it's a great way to set up your class for students to realize that it's okay not to be good at everything right away. And it's the same for us, right? We're not all good at using technology right away. We have to learn it, right? And the better we get at it, the more we use it, the easier it becomes. So it's a great way for students to start thinking about what are they okay at? Maybe they're okay at tying their shoes, or they're okay at brushing their teeth, or they're okay at writing their name. But by the end of the year, maybe they can write a whole paragraph, or they can tie their friend's shoes, or whatever it happens to be. So you can start to build that growth mindset by creating these okay books. And I did this a lot more with coding, where I'd have the students say what they were okay at coding, and then they worked on it, and then they said, okay, I've mastered this, I'm still working on this, this is what I'm okay at. Another fun way to do through virtual our museum exploration. So this actually is a picture of my son when he was in the 2nd grade. He wanted to be Ben Franklin because he loved that he was an inventor and a politician, all those kind of things. So I put that in there. We took him to the Franklin Institute, and he loved to explore. But you can explore all different museums online. So Google Arts and Culture is my favorite. And Google Arts and Culture is part of your G Suite. So it's available to you. And what it does, and there's an app for your iPads if you're at an iPad school, but what it does is always gives some different picks as far as things you can do today. So games like Guess the Famous Artworks, Take a Break at Lake Michigan, 5 museums to explore in Tokyo. It has a ridiculous amount of museums on it. I don't remember how many, but it's thousands of museums around the world are on there. And then you can play color games. You can explore different artwork. You can do the selfie one where you can see who you look like as far as art goes. You can do some music and art. There's augmented reality. There's virtual reality built in. You can look at all different art in high definition, where you can zoom in on art that normally you're not allowed to get close to. You can look at, this one's about fashion. They have little quizzes. They have all these activities for you to do, and you can create collections and then share the collections back with your students. You can do this for historical artifacts. Anything you can find in a museum, you're going to find on Google Arts and Culture. If you're really into artificial intelligence and machine learning, if you click down to experiments, you can take a look at different things that Google is working on that are different experiments that you can play around with. So here's some arts and culture ones, some ones about the earth. If you go into the collections, you can narrow it down. Voice experiments, they have word ones, creation ones, all sorts of really fun experiments that you can try with kids. Just know that because they're experiments, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they've been pulled off, sometimes they become something. So like the Chrome Music Lab used to be a Google experiment. Now it's available. Google Draw used to be an experiment. Now it's available. So certain things will, once they realize they've mastered it, they'll offer it to you. So it's available to you. So you can see that website. Same with the Smithsonian and American Museum of Natural History, tons of different things you can do. You can have the students create artifacts that would be in a museum. They can draw art that they can hang in a museum. I always did a project with my 6th graders that they read a book about something in science, and they had to create something that you could sell in the gift shop, and we'd set up a little store, and the kids would have to try to sell their items in our classroom. You could do science experiments based on what you see in these museums. So there's lots of different things you can do virtually within these museum virtual tours. Augmented reality, I've mentioned this before, that augmented reality really does engage kids. 3D Bear is one of my favorites. It's an app, so you'd have to do this one on an iPad or a phone. But CoSpaces works on a Chromebook. There's lots of different ones that do. That's a good one. And you can create these little videos. So here I just took a picture of my screen where I had a space, and I have the Earth and the Moon and the little girl sitting out there. So you can create these really engaging stories for students. You can create shapes, whatever it is you'd like to do using augmented reality. For digital fluency, you can certainly use a website called NetSmarts, and this is video games, videos to watch, activities that are downloadable, either printable and that sort of thing, that have to do with being safe online. So these are for your young ones. Another one that I love to use is OkGo. OkGo is a YouTube band, I guess is the best way to go to think about it. So if I go out to YouTube, you can watch any of their videos, like this one, the upside down one, does it in zero gravity. So once the video goes away here.
With Grammarly, you can find.
So they actually filmed this whole video in zero gravity in a plane in the sky. And if I click over as you watch the video, you'll start to see things are floating. They're moving around. And they bounce around. Kids love these. What I used to do with them is when I wanted kids to transition from one activity to another in the classroom, I'd put these videos on, and the students loved the video so much that they would get to where they needed to be quickly so they could watch the video. But they've partnered with Google, and they've created a sandbox of actual activities that are tied into these videos. And you can see under each video what they collaborate on. So art and collaboration, physics, art, parabolas, creating flip books, physics and maths. You can see that they've created some different activities that tie into the video. So the students watch the video, they do the lessons. So you can make these really fun activities for your students in the classroom. Oh, I clicked on YouTube again. Another fun thing to do with your students are explorations. This one happens to be a STEM one. I did this with some middle schoolers that they were exploring going into high school, whether or not they wanted to take some STEM classes or the project Lead the Ways. And what they would do is I would give them this little mini hyperdoc. They click on the scientist, which brings them out to a Flipgrid video about this woman. This woman is a marine biologist who collects whale snot using a drone. And from here, she studies the health of whales. All right, kids love this, right? It's super fun. So they watch this particular one. And when they're done with that one, then they go on and they can explore other scientists. And this is a Flipgrid of STEM women from around the world. So there's 91 that happen to be on there. Their goal is 1,000. So if you know anyone, they should record their videos. And they can read and learn, or listen and learn from all of these different scientists around the world, what they do in the science field. So it's a great way to do some career exploration, get your kids excited, that sort of thing. And then the students had to explain what they learned. All right, so fun activity to do with kids. You can also, and I mentioned this earlier, do choice boards. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one because I have another session on this coming up. But you can take them out to different choice boards. So I'm giving you some health and wellness ones, some learning, offline activities, and some reading response choice boards. You have links if you click on each of these boxes that will take you there. For math, I know I said for any classroom, but sometimes you just have to be specific, right? So my favorite math site is called Mathagon. And what this does is it gives you all of these different canvases and different activities you can do with students. So like Polypad, if I open that one, it gives you a place where students can drop and drag different shapes. You can do tanagrams, you do counting, they can do different activities with it. You can draw on it, you can add in different angles, whatever it is you'd like to do. So all of these activities are really built into this website, and students can kind of play around and manipulate and explore math. Some of the other activities give them printables, like the math origami is a printable. The timeline of mathematics will talk about some of the famous mathematicians. You can see careers that students can use within, can be within math. So you can see applications of math, and it'll take you out and explain each of these different applications. So Mathagon is a really robust site to send your students for that exploration. I'm sure you already know about PhET simulations. If you don't, they're free through the University of Colorado. They're all simulations that'll work on most computers. Some of them are flash-based, but I think they've gotten rid of most of those. But they're actual simulations your students can explore and work with for math and science. So you can see all the different activities. They have them from elementary right up through high school level. So you can see university level, elementary school. So if I just narrow down elementary, you can see you've got some area and some color. If I click on university, you're going to see some bigger ones about balancing, atomic reactions, static electricity, that sort of thing. And then the last one is just for chemistry. And I still put this one on, even though this one is super specific. But this one is you make a chemical combination, and your students try to make a chemical combination, and the machine makes one, and then it compares and it sees who's right. So you get to play against the machine. You're doing some machine learning. You're learning about AI. You're doing this on an IBM built platform. So it's a free web service predicting chemical reactions. Super fun for kids, super fun for chemistry teachers. So I just wanted to show that out there. Reading resources, you probably know all these already. I'm not going to spend any time on them, but I wanted to give you some online resources that are available for you for reading activities that are super fun for kids, like Storytime from Space. Astronauts are reading books from the space station for your kids. So lots of fun things you can do with kids there. And I just want to end with the last 4 minutes with questions, but I also am giving you this. I made this document, I don't know, in April, I think. It's a fun things to do at home, and there are links to things that people were offering or things I found online last spring. So I'm giving you access to this document that has tons of different ideas for you as far as ways to get your kids active, ways to get them engaged, ways to get them creating. So you can see I've got subject-based, art, music, active, and then for anyone that's going to have a lot of those field trips, playing different activities and games. So I'm going to share this with you, and then I'm going to open the floor for questions because I ended up talking way too much, and I know you guys have questions for me. All right. I put it in the chat so you have it. I unshared my screen. Please ask any question you have for me. Otherwise, have a fabulous day. Yeah.
Lori, do you have any like we're trying to figure out how to have kids edit PDFs, and I know like Cami is obviously the one option, but it seems like there's some limitations. But then there's also, I've heard, but I haven't been able to play with it, that you can upload things in Google Classroom, but I think they need the app on their phone to edit things that way. And I don't know if you have any insight on that.
Yeah, Cami definitely lets you annotate on PDFs easily. If you put it in Google Classroom, if they're on an iPad or a phone, it does bring them to a place that they can draw on a screen. You can upload it to SeeSaw, and the students would be able to edit over that PDF. You could also do it in Nearpod on a Draw It slide, or in Pear Deck on one of their drawing slides. So you can do it in those places. Those are probably your best bets as far as places for them to annotate on. Or you could create it in Google Slides, or change the shape of the page to an 8.5 by 11 so it looks like your sheet of paper, and then create text boxes if you just want them to type in. Yeah, okay. Those are your best bets. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, and I'll put in, if you are using Cami, cami.app/LoriG20 is my code. If you go to that website, you can get 6 months of premium Cami if you want to check it out.
Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. All right, have a fabulous day. I will stay on to the last one leaves, so if anyone has questions, I will still be here, but I'm going to stop the recording. If you haven't put something in the chat, do that, please. That's how I'm going to take attendance. Thank you. Yeah, and these resources, the idea of this one is really it should be resources you can use anywhere. They shouldn't be specific to a platform. Thanks, Denise. Good seeing you.